What's up, guys, and welcome to the weekly Q&A. First up, I had two people ask me a very similar question. Both Will Nelson and Tim Jump asked me to talk about the balance of the Force and where I think the philosophy of the Force might be headed in The Last Jedi. I agree with what they both said, that it seems to be going towards kind of a more neutral ground. If you want to call that gray, that's fine, but I think the implication of what we're seeing is that the Jedi and the Sith were just two very opposite extremes. The Sith would give in to all of their emotions, including the negative ones, and the Jedi were just the complete opposite. They wanted to get rid of all emotions. So, I get kind of where they were headed, because there are negative emotions that lead to the dark side, like anger and rage and hatred, but they're completely ignoring positive emotions like love. And I think that the argument could be made that Anakin and Luke Skywalker were both so powerful because they loved. Anakin, unfortunately, let fear of losing that love lead him down a dark path. But then Luke used the positive emotions of love for his father and hope that he could be redeemed to redeem Anakin and bring him back to the light side. So maybe that balance in the Force is all about kind of learning to be a normal human being, or I say human, but like just a living, whether you're human or non-human. I mean, we all have to learn how to cope with negative emotions without allowing them to consume us. And frankly, I think that life without love is meaningless. And that's where I think the Jedi really lost their way, was ignoring all of their connections and living a life without love. So I think that might be kind of the new direction that we see the philosophy of the Force head in The Last Jedi. Michael Sweat wants to know how clones that executed Order 66 dealt with their actions after the fact. It seems like most of them just kept on going and working with the Empire and had no real reason to believe that what they did was wrong. But one of my favorite moments in the new canon, like in any of the stories, this is from the Kanan comic, we get to see Kanan confront two of his old clone friends, and he basically snaps one of them out of the spell of Order 66, and he kind of realizes, like, something just happened in our brains and we didn't question anything and we killed our Jedi generals, and was that the right thing to do? And he kind of realizes what happened, and he winds up sacrificing his life so that his old friend Kanan, or as he was known then, Caleb, could escape. And that moment is just one of the best in all of the Star Wars canon. It really blew me away, and I would highly recommend you read that comic if you haven't. Ben Stoneman asks, what from Star Wars Legends would I like to see make a return in The Last Jedi? Something small that I think has a chance of happening is General Wedge Antilles. In Star Wars Legends, he achieved a very high rank in the New Republic, and we haven't really seen much of him in the new canon after the Aftermath trilogy, so I think it would be very cool to see him make a return. Dennis Lawson was at Star Wars Celebrations, so that could be a signal that maybe he's willing to come back to the Star Wars universe. And I think it would be awesome if he were just a high-ranking member of the Resistance, or maybe he's in whatever's left of the New Republic fleet and he joins the fight and he becomes allies again with his old friend General Organa. Christopher Rosato wants to know if I'd rather have a new animated series take place before the prequels or in between episodes 6 and 7, and why. I would like to see it in between episodes 6 and 7, because the best pitch that I've heard for that show came from Ken Knapsack over at the Collider Jedi Council. He suggested that it be a show about Luke and Lor San Tekka learning about the Jedi and traveling through the galaxy, and that idea to me is like perfect, because we would get to see a new planet every week or every arc, or however they want to do that show. We could see a variety of cultures and a variety of antagonists, like they could have to fight through political red tape, or maybe a small sect of some strange Force religion, or it could be anything as they learn about the Jedi and the Force, and we'd get to explore ancient history, so it's kind of the best of both worlds. We'd get to see what happened to Luke after Return of the Jedi, and we could still explore some prequel stuff. So I think that idea is the best one, at least that I've heard so far. Matt Borda asks if Lucasfilm could have a super secret Star Wars story to release in those 19 months between Solo, a Star Wars story, and Episode 9, because that is a pretty significant gap. No, I don't think there's any way that that's gonna happen. I think Lucasfilm wanted to shift Star Wars releases from December to May, and they're sticking with that for Han Solo, but after they let go of Colin Trevorrow and they brought JJ back, they just couldn't keep that May release date, so they're giving it the extra time that it needs, which is good. I kind of still wish that they would just take Solo and move it to next December, only to make that gap less even. Like, yeah, it's great that we get a Han Solo movie or a new Star Wars movie right after The Last Jedi, only like 5 months, but then we have to wait 19 for Episode 9, and that's gonna stink, but it is what it is. That's it for patron questions. If you're a patron and you didn't see your question answered here, just head over to Patreon where I left you a written response. If you're not a patron, you can learn more by following the link in the description. Just $1 a month will get you access to extra Star Wars Explained goodies like monthly giveaways and audio commentaries for the films, and the combined donations really go a long way in supporting the channel. On to YouTube questions. Liam O asks if Starkiller Base could travel through hyperspace. I have answered this before in a video, but this question got a lot of upvotes, so I figure people are still wondering about it, and the answer is yes. Starkiller Base did have a hyperdrive, and it could travel through hyperspace. I don't know how the physics behind moving an entire planet, even if it's more the size of a moon, I don't know how that works at all, but the answer is yes. Resistance Chris wants to know how the First Order found the Resistance base in The Force Awakens. Snap Wexley mentions doing a reconnaissance mission, and that's how they got that holographic image of Starkiller Base that they then compared to the Death Star. While the First Order a little bit later mentions that they tracked Snap's reconnaissance ship back to Dakar, so that's how they found it. Lukev asks why Scarif didn't have those little portable turrets that we've seen now in the Battlefront 2 beta at the Fondor Starfighter assault map. The boring answer is that those turrets were probably just stuck in there for map balance purposes and nothing else. But to give you an in-universe answer, I think it probably just comes down to Imperial overconfidence. They saw Scarif, which was already like a pretty unknown planet. They had the planetary shield, they had the shield gate. In their mind, it was impenetrable, and they didn't even need the turrets. Darth Revan wants to know why Luke didn't even attempt to save Leia in The Empire Strikes Back on Cloud City. I don't really understand your question, because I think that's exactly why he was there. He was there to save Han and Leia. He follows her down the hall after she even warns him that it's a trap. And I think he was just, he's never been to Cloud City before. I think he just got lost, or he was intentionally led to the Carbonite platform, and there Darth Vader is waiting for him, and it's not like he can just say peace and go try to help Leia. Vader's not going to let him do that. He straight up has to fight Vader. And probably a little bit of his overconfidence, wanted to fight Vader anyway because he thought he could win. Isaac Davis asks what the official canon version of Shaktis Death is, because in Star Wars Legends, she dies like 3 different times in 3 different ways. So the canon version right now is that she was killed in the Jedi Temple by Anakin, and that is something that they did shoot, and it was just left out of the film. But according to Pablo Hidalgo, that's what the story group is sticking with, but he also admits that a future story could change that if someone chose to write about it. That's all the time I have for questions today. If you want to leave a question for next week's video, just put it in the comments below or sign up for Patreon to join our weekly Q&A discussion. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.